I just want to remind your listeners and your viewers that the world has so much good happening too,
Yes.
along with all the bad. And we've got to hang on to that like hell, because I'm reminded of this amazing quote. Hope is not just a little lottery ticket that you like clutch on your couch while you eat chips and watch TV. Hope is a battering ram. You batter down the door of adversity with hope. But we don't have hope if we don't see the good things that are happening, right?
Right.
So we've got to remind ourselves that all the horrible stuff that we doom scroll through in the news is only part of the picture. And the news media shows us that because it's their way of staying solvent. And they're often
Mm,
not showing us the good news. But AI is a great example. There's amazing things that AI can do to save the planet, and we just don't hear much about it. There's also terrible things. AI can do terrible things. Don't get me wrong.
absolutely.
It
Yep.
can. We could talk about those like right now, because I think it's good to be fair and honest.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the Unbreakable Podcast Network. It is my absolute pleasure to reintroduce. If you followed me on the Helios Podcast Network, you would have heard the first podcast from my good friend, Etelle. And we are back together. And Etelle, welcome. It's so good to have you back.
It's so great to be here with you, Kate. I wish I was in person so I could give you a big warm hug.
I know. It's been so long. We of course we stay connected on the old LinkedIn, but this is our first visit in a couple of years.
Yeah. You know, time flies, the world changes, AI has happened, lots of things.
Gosh, it was like a pipe dream when we got together last time. I
Yeah.
mean, I look back and we'll definitely hit the pause button so you can give viewers and listeners an insight into who you are and the magnificent things you do. But I think about you all the time and some of your stories of when you're out doing activism in the world and in the backseat of cars and people you don't know are driving you. And yeah, oh gosh, like you've got some crazy
You're
stories.
so sweet, Kate. I don't know if I deserve all of your kindness. Oh.
Golly. So why don't we step back a little bit and do an introduction to you. We've got a new global network of folks here. And of course, you're one of the most unbreakable women that is in my network. Let's talk about that.
Well, Kate, you know, I have wanted to be a human rights activist since I can remember, basically. Apparently, when I was quite small, like 3, 4 years old, I toddled into the living room and told my parents I was going to be a doctor without borders. So I
Oh,
knew at an early age I wanted to help other humans to thrive. But actually, I'm really bad at math and science. And so as I got older, I realized probably being a doctor without borders is not a viable career option. And that's how I ended up going more a different route of the humanities, and I ended up at Yale Law School and then 2 war crimes tribunals. Worked at Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, mostly actually on documenting crimes against humanity and atrocities like war crimes, usually in war zones or post-conflict areas, places like Iraq, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast,
mm,
Lebanon, worked on the border with Haiti and the Dominican Republic, worked in Guatemala right after the peace accords were signed. But then I had this like come to Jesus moment where I realized we're not going to have any human rights on a dead planet. I was like, oh no, gotta save the planet. What are we going to do? So I sort of hopped over and went to Greenpeace and ended up, at first they were like, what is this rando human rights chick doing on our doorstep? Like, what? But I sort of started at the bottom, volunteered, and then quickly became a consultant and ended up as their research director in Southeast Asia. And that's when I saw that actually so many human rights abuses, they are the flip side of the environmental abuse coin. The
mm,
same companies that do one do the other. So if you're at sea, the vessels that are overfishing and doing pirate fishing and IUU fishing, this terrible fishing that trashes the ocean, they tend to also be the vessels with seafood slavery. They treat their workers appallingly. They're just like floating prisons, torturing people, killing people, working them to the bone. And on land, as it is on sea, Yeah, you see that the companies and industries that are hurting people are also hurting the planet. So actually, I didn't escape human rights. I just brought human rights with me into the environmental space.
And it sounds like it sounds like it needed it.
But honestly, it's just the best thing ever, Kate, to wake up in the morning and know that you can do your little bit. And it's not like anything that I do is so special, but there's this big, beautiful, special house of human
Mm.
rights and environmental activism. And you just doing your little brick. If all of us do a brick, then we have this gorgeous house. And if nobody shows up with their little brick, then there's no house. So,
That's right.
none of us are like amazingly indispensable, except maybe Greta Thunberg. She's like my idol and my goddess and all. But, you know, um, also Ocean Ramsey. Oh my God, I love that woman so much. I'm obsessed. But, even though most of us will never make as much of a difference as Greta Thunberg, she probably did like a whole wall in the house just trying. It's such a privilege and an honor. And so I'm so lucky. And now I'm starting a new chapter after fighting a lot on other high risk commodities that trash forests like palm oil, cattle, and soy, and cocoa and rubber. I've started fighting against deforestation in coffee. And I started this new NGO called Coffee Watch. Yay! Save the planet with
That's
every
fantastic.
drink, every sip, making a better world.
Well, and so, I mean, it's so powerful to hear you, talk about how everybody coming in and doing their one little brick. Like, and I think when we got together last time, one of the things that I told you was our family, we are avid recyclers. Like, we don't even put trash out on a bi-weekly basis. It's like once
I
every
love
three
that. I was
weeks.
like, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
will
mean,
be
and
better
and
to you. I will follow Kate's footsteps.
we put a recycling bin out every week, but it's like even if like the last week was a great example. My family was like, "Oh, it's garbage day tomorrow," and I'm like, "Yeah, but there's only one bag in there. So why would we invite the truck to our house to use the machine to do the like? It just to me, it's and I know that is such a tiny, tiny, tiny
No,
thing, right?
no.
But
It's one brick in the edifice, right? Because you do it, then your family does it, then your neighbors do it, then your office does it, then all of a sudden you're a change maker. Ever since you said that, I started to become like more careful. I even went to the bathroom with like two little trashes in the bathroom.
we have the same thing. We have a recycling bin
You
in our
totally,
bathroom, and
I
one, and
know.
yeah, I'm an influencer.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
It's it.
because each of us can radiate joy and positivity and be like that little pebble in the pond that makes these ripples. We can all show up in the best way or
Yeah.
in the worst way. It's our choice.
Absolutely. Well, and since we were together last, there have been so many large world events. We look at the war in Ukraine. We look at what's going on in Gaza. We look at what's happened in Iran. We are looking at some of the things that are happening even in your own country. And then, conversely, we look at, some of the larger environmental things that we've seen in the past that were looking like they were moving in really good directions that maybe halted. And then of course we saw the induction of AI, and AI is one of those things where I think we can use it for good, but it can also be used in a way that does start to leach and take away as opposed to adding as much as we possibly could. And so like when you look at all of those things, looking in the rearview mirror and even looking forward, like how do how do you start to consume that and start to say, okay, how am I going to do my part where it makes sense for me in a lot of these different spaces?
Kate, this is such an interesting question you're asking. This is really a game changer question about AI, I think. Let me just take a step back and say that there's a lot of bad news in the world, but also good news. The
Hmm.
problem is that with the advent of social media, the regular old school media has kind of collapsed and it hasn't been able to reinvent a business model that works.
Mm,
And so we're getting less and less, I would say, accurate, strategically sound, big picture news. Because the
absolutely.
only way for the news media to survive since the advent of social media is to get a lot of clicks and hits. So we're
Right.
now in this attention economy, right? And the only way to
Mm,
get a lot of clicks and hits they found is to basically do like war pornography and incentivize doom scrolling and rage scrolling, right? Because algorithms just show that more of your news readers will read things that make them feel enraged and horrified. So
Wow.
I'm not saying that there isn't a war in Ukraine. Of course, and it's a horrible war. And, my husband works at the UN and sends like lots of supplies and aid. He's part of the UNICEF team that's responsible for sending life-saving equipment for babies and kids and moms in Ukraine. And I'm so proud of him. I don't want to belittle anyone's concerns that like the world has terrible things happening in it. I just want to remind your listeners and your viewers that the world has so much good happening too,
Yes.
along with all the bad. And we've got to hang on to that like hell, because I'm reminded of this amazing quote. Hope is not just a little lottery ticket that you like clutch on your couch while you eat chips and watch TV. Hope is a battering ram. You batter down the door of adversity with hope. But we don't have hope if we don't see the good things that are happening, right?
Right.
So we have got to remind ourselves that all the horrible stuff that we doom scroll through in the news is only part of the picture. And the news media shows us that because it's their way of staying solvent. And they're often
Mm,
not showing us the good news, but AI is a great example. There's amazing things that AI can do to save the planet. And we just don't hear much about it. There's also terrible things. AI can do terrible things. Don't get me wrong.
absolutely.
It
Yeah.
can. We could talk about those like right now, because I think it's good to be fair and honest. But AI could help save endangered species because it helps us identify wildlife and track them. You can connect AI to drones that will like scare off top predators from herds of sheep and cattle so that the farmers are less incentivized to hurt them, right?
Mm,
You could revolutionize animal rights by AI helping us understand their languages. AI is cracking the code of dolphinish, whalish, piggish, doggish,
wow.
all these animals, birdish. That's not a real language, but I made it up because we don't have words for those languages, right? But AI can save our oceans by finding all the ghost nets out there so we can
Mm,
collect them. AI can monitor corals for better protection. It can help us clean up plastic. It can help us stop deforestation by monitoring it more accurately in real time and better than most humans. It could curb water use in agriculture, right? Where you have like, if you plug all your information and you can do drip irrigation, way more minute tweaks that are super sophisticated. We are running out of water. AI can save us, and it's not just that. It can help us fight wildfires, improve monitoring of Arctic ice loss. It can totally reinvent recycling. You were talking about recycling, Kate. They have these
yeah.
robots called like Sorty McSortface, who's like a hero of the
That's
AI
amazing.
robot. Oh my God, I love Sorty McSortface. He and his friend are transforming recycling, which often can be a sort of quasi failure into something that's an epic success. We've got to talk about the bad stuff too, but I think we need to look really good and hard at the hope,
Hmm.
because right now we need to do everything we can to save our planet. It's all hands on deck.
I agree. I agree. And the other thing is that there's a fear around AI, particularly with our little Gen Zs, right? I mean, they look at this and they go, "I'm just entering the workforce," or "I'm a couple years into the workforce." And I have this conversation with my daughter all the time. She does not want to use AI because she has a very significant belief that it is causing communities harm, that it is eating resources, that it is overusing water, that it is polluting our communities that live close by. Okay, and the other thing that she worries about is the fact that AI is going to take her job because she's a young professional. And I said to her the other day, we were driving home from family dinner, and I said to her, it's far less likely that AI is going to take your job. It's actually going to be someone who knows how to use AI, that's embracing AI, who's going to take your job.
I think your daughter is right, like many people, to be deeply worried about the harms that AI can wreak on our planet. Some of it is very real, like sucking up too much energy. That is a real problem. Artificial intelligence requires massive amounts of electricity. There have been some big breakthroughs, like one in China, recently, a big technological breakthrough. So there's hope that AI will itself figure out how to become ever more efficient so that it's sucks up less energy, but it is sucking up a lot of energy and is poised to suck up more, which means that we are going to have to mobilize more renewable energy to power AI. But I think everyone in the renewable energy space will tell you that AI has immense potential to help renewable energy improve
Interesting.
in terms of quality and cost. So I think it's a huge and real present harm and a real possible future harm. And what we need to do is figure out a solution as much as we can. And also, I will add, it's not just energy. Data centers are sucking aquifers dry.
Yes.
There's a lot of worries that AI will help turbocharge terrible people doing terrible things who are able to harness the power of AI for evil, like wildlife trafficking. So
Hmm.
just the way I was saying, conservationists can save endangered species through AI by tracking and protecting and minimizing terrible interactions, right, between farmers and top predators that are maybe threatening their sheep or their cattle or whatever. So too, wildlife traffickers could probably use AI. Um, so look, this is not all rosy, right? I think what it is this is kind of like the advent of machines.
Yes.
You know, you can have machine guns. They're literally designed to like kill people. I mean, in principle, that's dangerous and bad. Although you could imagine that sometimes you need a machine gun maybe to like kill Hitler and stop World War II. I don't know. But in general, machine guns, we understand intuitively are like the dark, dangerous, problematic part of machines. But think about laundry machines that have saved women
Mm.
from drudgery around the world, right? Think about machines that like help prenatal babies that are just born too early to
Yeah.
survive. You know, there are good machines, there are bad machines. I think AI is incredibly powerful for good and evil. Every person who cares about human rights on the planet, about nature and carbon, the sort of carbon cataclysm that we're heading to, climate catastrophe, but also the nature disaster that we're in right now of mass extinction. We're in like the sixth mass extinction. That's the age of the Anthropocene is going to be known for that, right? If you care about those things, how do we use AI to dig ourselves out of these terrible
Hmm.
holes that we're in now? It's this immensely powerful thing. Should we just sit around and watch it do only the bad stuff? Or should we find ways for it to do great things too?
Oh,
I would say.
absolutely. I think the other thing too is that right now, as people dabble in AI, a lot of people, um, they use it for entertainment purposes as opposed to a viable solution to do or be something different. And I think largely that's because people misunderstand the capability and what the possibility of what could be. And I think that that is because we struggle to understand what we don't know. And so we look at it and we go, okay, Chat GPT can make me a really cute cartoon of my friend and I dressed as dogs. Great. And so, but then what you see is you see this huge draw that goes through social media where it becomes a trend, right? And that trend is people producing entertainment with AI, which then goes towards the draw of pulling resources out and doing things and using all that water and using all those data centers and using all that energy. And really, there's nothing good that comes out of it except for maybe we feel good for a little bit of time, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're developing at my new firm, we're developing an AI practice. And in a lot of ways, what we're trying to do is create mechanical and operating efficiency. Right. So there's two things that are going on. We're working with groups and we're trying to understand how we can do things like predictive maintenance. Now, the selling point to predictive maintenance at a leadership level is I'll be able to see something before it becomes a problem, which means I don't have
Exactly.
downtime. Maybe I don't have
Exactly.
an environmental spill. Really is, you don't want to have a loss of containment and an environmental spill. Organizations, I believe, do not want to harm the environment or people. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, "Boy, I can't wait to wreck that creek and hurt those families." I don't believe that for the most part. Um, but then secondarily, there are also different systems and tools that sit on top of how an operation works. And looking down the pathway of being able to identify and use AI in an agentic learning way to create better employee engagement is also something that I think you have a lot of opportunity with.
Oh, yeah.
If you have an engaged workforce, they live in the community, they play in the community, they're invested. It's not just a paycheck for them anymore because they see the output of having preventative maintenance or, living inside of their process better and keeping it in the pipe. Because I think we'd be remiss to think that we could be a fossil fuel free society. I feel like is it impossible? No, I don't think it's impossible. But do I think that it's a long time in the future and quite expensive to get us to that point? It is.
I think AI, it can make your employees happier or sadder.
Hmm.
It can enhance their productivity and help them deliver so much better, just as it can make them super depressed or replace them and then they get sacked. It's AI is just basically the most powerful thing to come and transform our society in
I
a
agree.
long, long while, right? And it's changing everything. And I think for all of us, the question is how do we harness as much of that change as possible for as much good as possible? Do you know what I mean?
I
So when you
do.
talk about employee happiness and community healing, AI can do a lot of things in that domain. It's kind of magic. You talked about forecasting, right? AI has delivered weather forecast tools that are literally faster and cheaper than supercomputer models and that can run on
Wow.
a laptop.
Hmm.
And this means as climate change turbocharges more superstorms and crazy extreme weather events, AI can improve life-saving extreme weather warnings. Or if you're going to have a mega drought, it can help you maximize crop yields. It can help you figure out how to bring as much water as possible where you need it, when you need it, how to minimize your drip irrigation to keep your water irrigating your farm as long as possible because it will
Mm.
have a much better sense of this drought than any current scientist would, right? And so I think it's just in all corners of our life, right? Think about forests. With AI, you can predict where deforestation is going to happen next.
Hmm.
You can set up a network of sound sensors that give you alerts for the sound of chainsaws or that monitor social media for mentions of deforestation. Through like AI, you can go through these huge amounts of data that teams of humans literally like just we don't have the ability to go through that colossal level of data and stop illegal loggers from hacking down trees in time. We usually can't even catch them like after the fact, you know?
Yeah,
So this is a game changer, Kate. It's for good or evil. It is going to change everything. And it's up to us to make sure that it's as good as possible, right?
I agree. So, in just kind of like taking that vein and like maybe switching gears a little bit, the last time we spoke, you were really invested in the human rights and environmentalism around rubber and cocoa. Particularly, you used to release your biggest violators chocolate list every single Easter so that we could make good conscientious decisions. Talk a little bit about how you've kind of shifted gears over into the coffee space because I think that's a really interesting space where you
Yeah.
probably do see a lot of opportunity, particularly around the workers as well as the environment.
Yeah. Well, so Kate, I think we talked about this last time, but it bears repeating. Forests are kind of this life support system for us on planet Earth, right? We really need them to survive. There's a reason why so many folks refer to forests as the lungs of the planet. You
Yes,
know, forests don't need us, but we need them very badly.
we do. We do.
And the good news is that although deforestation remains a problem today, there's been a lot of positive change. There are 7 commodities that are driving global deforestation. You could think of them as like the 7 deadly sins, right? It's the 7 deadly drivers of deforestation. That's good news and bad news because it's only 7. So we can wrap our arms around them and change them. I think it's not too much of a moonshot, right? We can put a man on the moon. We can probably get 7 commodities to
Yes.
transform. And the bad news is, okay, there's 7 of them, but at least it's not 700. Yeah.
Correct.
And so let's just go through them. When I was at Greenpeace, we worked a huge amount on palm oil and pulp and paper in Southeast Asia. Those are titans of deforestation. But the good news is palm oil industry has transformed from where it was 17 years ago.
Wow.
Like deforestation for palm oil went down, down, down as a result of these very hard fought campaigns. It's a beautiful
Incredible.
story of hope, transformation, and change, right? And in Latin America, especially, the top drivers of deforestation are cattle and soy. Um, and actually, under Lula, now in Brazil, deforestation for cattle and soy is going down, down, down. Not fast enough. And I'm not saying that palm oil, cattle, and soy are good or solved, but there's huge hope in palm oil,
Progress.
pulp and paper, soy, and cattle, thanks to Unbreakable, fabulous, courageous, feisty activists all over the world, many of whom I know
Amazing.
and admire so much. And I just am their biggest fans. And they taught me that yes, we can change this problem. And so actually, it was by seeing all the big, beautiful campaigns that were run on those 4 top drivers of deforestation, cattle, soy, palm oil, pulp, and paper, that when I was at Mighty Earth, I was like, okay, we should also try to tackle cocoa and rubber, which are numbers 5 and 7 of global deforestation. I was like, let's do it. And we did. We really did. And it was a hugely impactful set of campaigns. It's, again, not great. It's not perfect, but it's night and day, right? In cocoa, we
Yeah.
went from having no companies commit to zero deforestation to now well over 90% of the industry has committed to no deforestation.
Holy
And in
smokes.
rubber, kind of nothing to now well over 65%.
That's
So
fantastic.
it's not perfect,
Progress. It's
but it's big
progress.
progress. And I wanted to bring that same level of progress to coffee, which nobody really works on very much. It's kind of crazy. It's the number 6 driver of deforestation in the world. Nobody really works on it much, but I thought, okay, let that be me. I will give it a
It's
try.
time.
How
It's
how bad of
time.
a job can I do? I mean, better than nothing, probably.
Wow. Wow. And so talk a little bit about where you are in that journey, taking the things that you've learned. And, I think also just maybe hitting the pause button and recognizing that industry, those commodities were willing
Oh,
to
yes.
listen and
Willing,
to see the
absolutely.
opportunity. And I think
Yes.
that's the beauty about advocacy. And I think
Oh,
people
yeah.
forget this, right? I mean, they think Greenpeace and what do they see? They see Etelle hanging off of the side of a boat, petting a whale, whatever other granola crunching nonsense that they would apply to that. But I think that there's intelligence that's wrapped around this. There is social and emotional intelligence, and there's appealing to the heart of the leaders to say, we understand you're an industry, you provide a commodity, people want that commodity, but there's a better way. So how do you take those lessons learned, the good and the bad, because surely you've been poked in the eye a couple of times in your career while going through all of this, to say, I'm not going to get poked in the eye on that one this time. It's not a hill that I'm willing to die on, but I know that these 4 things worked very well in this industry. Let's see how they
Yeah.
translate.
No, you're sort of hitting the nail on the head. Basically, I got to have a front row seat thanks to working at Human Rights Watch and Amnesty and Greenpeace and Mighty Earth to what works.
Yeah.
Because we've won so many campaigns to transform global industries and
Hmm.
bring better human rights, better environmental practices. And so essentially it's almost like I got to work in all these different workshops and see all their toolboxes and see which
Oh,
tools they
powerful.
use and how did they use them and what works. And I'm now trying to take all those tools that I saw that worked and bring them all to coffee. So in a way, it's totally revolutionary because this hasn't really been, coffee hasn't had a watchdog, but it's also totally boring because these tools are just the same tools that have been used in palm oil campaigns and cocoa and rubber campaigns and cattle and soy campaigns. So essentially, there's a whole bunch of things that we've been trying that are the sort of, I guess you could say, winning tools, and I'm in it to win it. So we started Coffee Watch 10 and a half months ago. We've gone from
Wow.
0 to about 1 million views on social media. We did a report almost every month. Most of them are reports based on undercover investigations with ally NGOs in the field. I don't really believe in like white Western people going all over the world
Yeah.
without working closely with local allies. So we've been very, very focused on finding, I think, like the best local allies. We did undercover investigations with these amazing people in China. They did this fantastic work. We did a report together on human rights abuses in coffee in China. Then these fantastic Mexican NGOs, Empower and Prodesk. We did a report with them based on their investigation into abuses in Mexican coffee, a report on human trafficking and slavery in Brazilian coffee, a
Wow.
report on abuses in Colombian coffee. We've also done some like more desk research stuff. So unmasking horrible lobbying by the coffee industry, for example, to try to kill the European deforestation regulation.
Mm.
Did a whole report on that and then a follow up and actually kind of stopped the bad lobbying, I'm happy to say. So yeah, we've done basically one report a month. We've been in the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Spiegel, Le Monde, El País, like lots and lots and lots of news. So social media, awareness raising awareness through media work, through investigations. We're gearing up to do a scorecard for coffee, just like we did for chocolate. So that'll be out next year. We actually filed litigation. We
Wow.
filed a case with the US Customs asking the customs to block all coffee that was tainted by forced labor and slavery from entering the US.
Hmm.
So you're allowed to do that. It's called it's not exactly a lawsuit. It's a 307 petition that you can file with US CBP. So yeah, we did that. Yeah, we're trying really every single thing that I know how to do to stop deforestation, slavery, child labor, extreme poverty, and other really horrible abuses in the coffee industry. Because, like you said, most coffee companies have lovely people in them that don't wake up trying to wreck the planet or
No.
people's lives. They actually like very nice humans and they want to do good things. And I think they just need a little prod and a push, maybe consumer awareness, maybe a watchdog NGO. And I absolutely 100% believe coffee can be good, can be ethical, can make the world a better place with every cup. 100%. I'm a mug half full person, glass half full person. I truly think that. And that's what I want to see.
I agree. And I think that, sometimes I would be remiss to believe that, people who climb the corporate ladder, let's just use, I don't know, a big company that starts with S and ends with bucks. Those folks, they are, when you go into a storefront or you go through a drive-through, they're not promoting a product that looks like it would be harmful. They're not promoting, like, I feel like they're promoting friendship. They're promoting road trips. They're promoting, the goodness of what coffee and other products do. They bring us together. We have a coffee in the morning. We read our news. It's part of a daily routine in the Western world. And I mean, gosh, you go to Europe and it's a way of life in
Oh,
Europe.
you meet your friends over coffee. You have a coffee
Yeah.
with your family,
And so
Love.
you think about
It's
that.
love, bonding, and it's friendship, and it's
Absolutely.
community.
Yes, and I haven't seen you in a long time. Let's get together for a coffee,
Yeah,
right? And
let's get
and
together
so
for coffee. Kate, please come visit me so we can have a coffee together.
I'm on my way. So we look at this, and so talk a little bit about how you create a tactful awareness to perhaps an organization that maybe doesn't necessarily know or believe that their products are tainted, as you say, coming through. But, you know, this comes down to, I I think the ESG conversation, the environmental social governance of being aware, right? My dad used to say something very interesting to me, and it was, you are painted with the same brush as those you choose to spend your time with. Just because you don't go out and put small children into slavery, well, if the person that you buy your coffee beans from does, what does that say about you? And you can play the card of, well, I didn't know. But if you're running a multi-billion-dollar corporation, isn't it your responsibility to know where you're sourcing your products from and what the values of the organization are that you're buying them from? Like, how do you create that awareness and do it in such a way where you're not finger pointing at someone and making them like question their existence, but also creating the accountability for them to create sustainable change?
Yeah, yeah, this is such a tough one and a really important one, isn't it? I mean, Kate, look, I think there's two basic camps, right? There's people who literally do not know.
Hmm.
They just don't know how messed up their coffee is. And sometimes that's even like coffee shop owners.
Mm.
I
Wow.
mean, there are coffee company executives that I've talked to who like just didn't understand how much child labor there was in coffee because nobody's really studied it that
Right.
much and that loudly across many geographies. There have been these little studies here and there. There have been some reports and documentary films, and they're pretty bad, but they're very episodic. There hasn't been this steady drumbeat of a campaign that's like every week, every month, shoving your face in this problem.
Right. Right.
And so I think there's a lot of folks in coffee who just literally don't know, like baristas,
Oh yeah.
nice young people. They go and they get jobs as baristas. Like it's a sort of
Hmm.
thing you do when you're young. And, most baristas have no idea that coffee is the number 6 driver of deforestation in the world. Like they would be gobsmacked. If they knew that, they would be really sad and they would probably want to do something about
Yeah.
it stat yesterday. I think a lot of coffee lovers and drinkers have no idea.
No.
Most people, Kate, are good people. They when I tell people what I've discovered about the coffee industry, usually they're effing shocked. They're
Yeah.
shocked. They're
Yeah.
horrified. They're sad. And they want to do something to make it better. They want to be like sustainable coffee ninjas. Um,
Yes.
and so I think that there's a whole bunch of people for whom I would say, you did not know. That's okay. Now you know. The point of telling you is not so that you feel bad about yourself. Please do not just sit there and like doom scroll through all the reports that Coffee Watch has published, which you can find on our website, and they're very grim. Slavery, human trafficking, forced labor, child labor, extreme poverty, deforestation, many problems. But don't just sit there and learn about the bad stuff in order to feel sad and bad and mad. No. The point is to change and
Hmm.
become a ninja for sustainable coffee. And you can do that. You can buy from the heart. You can vote with your wallet every single day whenever you go buy your
Absolutely.
coffee. You can go online for like 1 hour of your life and just research what are the ethical coffee companies in your neck of the woods. If you're in London, maybe it's Kiss the Hippo. If you're somewhere else in the UK, maybe it's Cafe Direct. I live in Copenhagen. Here we have Slow Forest Coffee. If you're in Indonesia, maybe it's orangutan coffee. There's good coffee everywhere in the world. There's ethical, sustainable companies. You research, find the ones that are close to you, order a bunch of their coffee, see what tastes best, and then just order that stuff for a long time. Make it a habit every month. And don't just buy it for yourself. Buy it for your friends and your family. Gift it to
Yeah.
them on their birthdays when somebody invites you to brunch. Hey, Kate, thank you for having me to brunch. Here's a delightful, delicious, and really ethical coffee. You're going to love it. Here's why I'm giving
Yeah.
it to you because you care about the planet and you're a good person. And this coffee is literally good for people and planet. You can become an ambassador for ethical
Hmm.
coffee that way. You can not just change your coffee, you can change the coffee of your whole university or your office or your company. You can change your friends and your family's coffee. If you're friends with a barista or a restaurant, it's like your favorite restaurant, you go there all the time, talk to them. Change their coffee too. You
Yeah.
can be a change agent. You can do so much. You can sign petitions, you can call your elected representative, unless you're living in North Korea or like
Yeah.
Russia or something. You can do that. That's a privilege and a beautiful one, right? You
Yeah.
can totally be a ninja for sustainable coffee. Do not feel sad. Don't feel mad. Just make the world a better place.
Yeah, and it's one foot in front of the other when it comes to these types of changes. And I think if we look at history, history would suggest, I mean, you look at the other six commodities and industries that you've looked at. I mean, to see something like a 90% change of awareness and participation in a commodity, because you said that one was chocolate, like
Cocoa, yeah.
cocoa, like that's insane.
And a lot of palm oil too. Over 90% of palm oil is now covered by agreements like that combine no peat, that they're not going to drain peat, no deforestation, no deforesting forests, no exploitation, which basically means like no slavery, no forced labor, no child labor, no rape. And a lot of palm oil companies have also gone for no fire. So they track
Wow.
fire in real time. They stopped like becoming arsonists and they've started becoming more on the side of the firefighters.
Yeah.
So this NPDE, no peat, no deforestation, no exploitation movement just swept through the palm oil industry. And yeah, now like 26%, I think, of global palm oil is certified, but over 90% of global palm oil has committed big picture to the right kinds of things. So you can say there's totally problems left. There's bad apples, there's bad
Absolutely.
implementation of good policies, um, you know, but I think from where we were 17 years ago, it's night and day in palm
I,
oil. It can be night and day in coffee. We can change
absolutely.
all these things. Kate, we can be unbreakable. And if we're not unbreakable, we're going to be broken. So
Hmm.
it's our choice. This is our generation. This is our moment. Scientists are telling us we are running out of time. And that means it is now. This is the hour for us to step up, to fix our coffee, our chocolate, our beef, to fix our clothes, our phone, our house. Every little thing we do, every community and institution we change, this is our privilege that we get to have a chance to fix things for our kids and our grandkids. Now it's our time. That's
Yeah.
how I like to think about it.
And I think that's incredibly empowering, and there's the glimmer of hope, right? And when we lose hope, that's when everything ends.
If you lose hope, then you stop trying. And if you don't try, then we are definitely screwed. If you fight like hell, we might still be screwed,
Yeah.
but at least we have a chance,
Yeah.
right? It's like, what would have happened if Bilbo and, Aragorn just said, oh, you know what? This really sucks. There's like no chance. I'm not going to do this. This sucks so hard. I don't want to try anymore. I want to just like kick it and go have a coffee.
Hmm.
Or
I'm
no,
gonna go
that's
have my my
go
my
smoke a pipe. That's more
my
on
forced
brand.
breakfast. Yeah,
Dude,
the
instead I want to
forced
go smoke a
breakfast.
little pipe weed. No, if they had said that, then Sauron would totally have won, right? So, you know, we have to try.
Yep. So then talk about a time when, because these are hard conversations. This is hard work. Advocacy is tireless, and it is something that you can't be the faint of heart. You and I both know this. When you're advocating for something or someone, you cannot be the faint of heart. But some days you wake up and you feel like a wrung out little towel. You can do no right. You're not moving the needle forward. Everything seems down and dirty and hard. And it's like nobody's listening to me. Everybody's making fun of me.
Oh
Um,
man.
I mean, these days when you are particularly a female with a loud voice, I will say, and you show up, some days it is hard to show up.
Oh yeah.
Some days doing my hair, I think to myself, what's the point? And yet
Yes.
I continue doing my hair. I get dressed and I show up.
Yeah.
I would love to hear a time where you hit that wall and I'd love for you to share with our viewers and listeners what you did, how you got through that to continue to sustain the fight. And, so give us a story of a time when you kind of hit the wall, and then talk about those resiliency factors, those things that make you truly unbreakable, whether that's a person, a mentor, a mindset, and what the outcome was when you came through that.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you the craziest story.
I'm banking on it, Etelle.
Okay, so here I am. I've like started Coffee Watch. It's really hard because at the same time that I started Coffee Watch, Trump became president of the United States. Musk was able to cut all of USAID and cut all the US funds for the UN budget. So USAID essentially collapsed. And all these NGOs that were getting money from USAID that did human rights work and environmental work and humanitarian stuff started to either go bankrupt or become very endangered. And then when Trump cut all the money to the UN, all these UN agencies started shutting programs and cutting their aid that they were giving to local NGOs. So then global philanthropy basically had this giant freak out and was like, oh my God, we can't give any money to anybody
Yeah.
anymore because like our existing portfolio of grantees is like dying. They're all getting like put in the wood chipper. And then it got even worse because Trump was like, oh, we're cutting all the money to Ukraine. So Europe was like, oh, we're going to pull all the money that we were giving to human rights and environmental and humanitarian stuff into rearming Ukraine. So suddenly I realized Coffee Watch was just not going to get any money from anybody. And I was going to have to do everything pro bono, low bono, with magic and spit and chewing gum and a little bit of string. Like, oh
Wow.
so basically, I'm the unbelievably luckiest recipient of all this love and friendship and kindness.
Mm.
People gave tiny dollar donations. All these lawyers leaned in to do low bono and pro bono work for accountability in the coffee industry. Friends and family helped me with everything from website to graphic design. Um, I basically feel like all these people from Human Rights Watch, from Amnesty, from Mighty Earth, from Greenpeace, all leaned in to help me so much. But it
Wow.
is almost impossible to do this top-notch work that I had envisioned with no money or
Yeah.
almost no money. So basically, I've been killing myself for 10 months, just like working like crazy. And I got so exhausted, it almost broke me. So you ask, what is my craziest story? One day, I came home, broad daylight, I was not drunk, and I realized I had only one shoe on.
What?
I was
You were
wearing
walking
only
around
one
all day
shoe,
with one shoe?
ballerinas, and one ballerina fell off. That
Etelle?
was I know. I have to add another wrinkle. I am the mother of a very active toddler who's the
Uh,
absolute love of my life and the best thing in my entire existence. But he's a handful. It takes a lot of energy. And there are times when he's unwell where I don't get much sleep. I was just so exhausted. I came home with one shoe on. Have you ever met an
Never.
adult who's not drunk who came home with one shoe on? Never, right? It's just like,
Never, never. But I will say, when I'm driving and I see one shoe on the road, I always
yeah,
say,
you
why
know.
is there only one shoe? Now I know why.
It's a very exhausted mom of a toddler who's also starting an NGO that fights with one of the largest industries in the world. So there I with you, and I realized, okay, wow, I'm super tired. I'm like too tired. I need to give myself a little bit of break. And I will
Yeah.
see, I just resorted to love. That's my
Mm,
go-to. My husband
mm,
is amazing. He and my friends and my son just gave me so much love. And that's really what gave me the grace and the courage to keep going. One of my
wow.
friends helped me go swim in the ocean in these like freezing Scandinavian ocean baths, but it does really help you. It like clears your mind. She did meditation with me. My husband
Yeah.
showered me with kisses and encouragement. And I think love is kind of what saved me from that
Yeah.
brink of utter exhaustion.
Yes. Yes. That's incredible. And for me, I wake up every day and I say this on the podcast all the time. I write in my journal every day, I am love. Because and I say it all the time on the podcast and I say it in every coaching session that I have is I can still do really hard stuff and I can have hard conversations and I can do really detailed things that make people uncomfortable, but I can still do it with love. I don't have to be the lowest common denominator in the room. I can be up here and having really difficult conversations to get the best outcomes out of people. And I think this is a really great tie back into why some of the campaigns that you have participated on and the things that you have done have been successful. Your part might not be the whole part, like with coffee, where you're the one who's really the engine at the backside of it, pushing it forward. But the things that you bring to the table, the conversations that you start, the empathy that you show to the barista or to the coffee executive who doesn't know what they don't know, that is such a driver of being unbreakable.
I think that love is the right way to try to change even the darkest and worst industries and
Hmm.
companies because hate, mm, it just eats you up from the
Yes.
inside and
Yes.
destroys you.
And you think about the darkness and the things that you see in the reports that you've written and the evidence from undercover investigations. That has to be really hard for a loving, empathetic heart to be able to see. But then on the other hand, it must also be the driver that says this is intolerable. We should not accept this in our society.
As a mom, when I see this information about child labor being so
Mm,
prevalent in coffee, I just want to go scream into a pillow. It makes me so angry and sad because I think about my child and I just see these pictures and videos, and these kids are so beautiful and they're being robbed of their future that they deserve. They deserve a
yeah.
better future. But, I think that although that fierce, fiery rage can be the initial reaction that I almost like can't help but feel,
Hmm.
I try, to use meditation techniques to just like let that pass through me
Yes.
and focus on loving those kids and creating the best campaign that I can to fight for them to have a better future and to create the space for their parents to be able to fight for them to have a
Yes.
better future. You know, I think about a lot of coffee farmers, Kate, they work in places where it is not safe to speak out. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
number 2 coffee producing country in the world is Vietnam. Vietnam is a pretty closed, repressive dictatorship, and you're not allowed to have a union. If you try to start a farmers union to like advocate for better conditions or something or a living income price,
Yeah.
um, you would probably just go to jail and maybe get tortured and maybe killed.
Yeah.
And, Guatemala, like people who try to unionize in the coffee space literally have been attacked there. I mean, Colombia is the third biggest coffee producing country. It's actually the most dangerous place in the world to be working in a union, including like a farmers union. So, I think about how many parents are just so desperate, right? They have to choose between like starve, kid goes to school and we starve, or we have to pull out our kid from school and have them help us with the coffee and then we don't go hungry. And this is not a viable set of choices. These are not the two choices that parents should
No.
have, right? We all agree
No.
that's wrong. That's
Yeah.
not okay. It's
Yeah.
really not okay. So,
This or that. Neither one is good.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. That's like, would you like to be stabbed or poisoned? Um, so no, no, it's for many workers in coffee, they do not have the luxury that I have to demand something better whether it's because they're in a narco state like Honduras or a repressive dictatorship, like, the region of Yunnan in China is also a big coffee
Hmm.
producing region. We cannot ask them to speak out because you
No.
just wind up like dead or with your fingers cut off or in jail or something. So in a way, knowing what I know and being in a free country, it's a luxury. I have this luxury,
Yes.
this amazing gift that I'm allowed to go on your show and say this stuff. Like, and
Yeah.
nobody's going to come and knock on my door and drag me off to prison. I'm so lucky. And
Yeah.
that's what keeps me going and gives me this fiery, powerful hope and a feeling of love and solidarity mixed with that gratitude and fiery hope. That's what kind of keeps me going.
I love that. I love that. So now, as we wind down, if there was, one statement or one call to action that you would leave with our viewers and our listeners in terms of their maybe participation into social activism and making the world a better place, whether that's with coffee or some other avenue that's important in their purview right now, what would that be?
That's such a good question. Selfishly, I would say be a coffee ninja.
Yeah,
That means changing your coffee and mobilizing the people and communities and institutions around you to change their coffee. And I say this because it's really important. There are 25 million coffee farmers in the world. There are 100 million farm workers. Almost all those people are in incredible poverty. Many of them have no rights. It is the number 6 driver of deforestation in the world. We have got to do this better. And if we win on coffee, then it changes a lot of things. Just like transforming the palm oil industry helped set the table to change the cocoa industry and the
yeah,
rubber industry. And that gave me the courage and the idea that I could try to change the coffee industry. Every industry we change, it's like a positive domino. And
absolutely.
if you fix your coffee in your life and your institutions around you, then you can be like, you know what? The next thing I'm going to do is clothing, apparel. And
Hmm.
the next thing I'm going to do is gardening, because every little part of our life has this immense power and beauty. Kate, think about how many of us have gardens. My garden, when I came here to this house, it was just like a pesticide soaked lawn. I've turned it into nothing but wildflowers. It's
Mm,
like a bird, bat, butterfly hotel. My baby loves
amazing.
it. My husband loves it. The neighbors love it. Even my landlord, who at first was like, "What are you doing with my nice lawn?" And now my
Mm,
landlord's like, "Oh my God, it's so pretty. Can I take pictures?" And like if
amazing.
everyone changes their gardens, if everyone changes their clothes, their sneakers, their coffee, their phones, their cars, we are so powerful. Some bad industries have millions of dollars, but we have millions of people who care
Yeah,
about making the world a better place. And that is so powerful and so beautiful. So let's just start with coffee. Wake up,
let's start with coffee
change the
and
world, drink your
and choose
coffee, make it a better place.
wake up and choose ethics. How about that?
Yes.
There's
Yeah,
wake
wake
up
up
and
and choose
choose ethics.
ethics. I love it. I love it.
It's a new tagline for us. Well,
Exactly.
Etelle, give us an indicator. Where can people find more on you and on your campaign so that they can research? And we'll include this in the show notes. But let's where can people go to get that information?
Yeah, it's so easy. It's just coffeewatch.org. And then at the bottom of our website, we have all of our socials. So whatever you're on, Twitter, Blue Sky, Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, you can just go to the bottom of our website and click and follow us on our social media, and you can sign up for our newsletter there. And we created like a one-stop shop on the website where you can just take action. And it's all the good actions you can do for coffee. They're just all there just to make it easy for folks who want
Fabulous.
to be sustainable coffee ninjas. And yeah, I think I just would love to have your listeners walk away feeling that they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to drink only good coffee for the rest of their life. Because I too sometimes drink crappy and bad coffee, like at airport when I went to visit my family, I drank bad coffee. But every time you can do something good, it's just beautiful. And every little bit matters.
It truly does. Etelle, thank you so much for joining us. And I trust that we will have another reunion sooner than the last one. And we want to hear your progress. We want to hear your stories. Let's stay connected and let's have you back as you continue to progress down this path because I have no doubt that you will be.
Thank you so much, Kate. It was just lovely to be here with you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, so wonderful to have you. And so, listeners, viewers, protect your peace, chase your dreams, and remember, stay unbreakable.